Top headlines from U.S. newspapers every weekday at patspapers.com. Here's our lead story on this Tuesday.
Sure, the top of the screen says Pat's Papers, but again today, this is really Pat's economic update. A ton of stories about the economy in the papers again today. These stories range from an article about shrinking college endowments in the Shreveport Times to a story about the impact lower property taxes have on city budgets in the LA Times to a piece in the New York Times about spending cuts by people who can actually afford to keep spending these days. People whose incomes remain strong are finding the economic environment causes them to think twice about their own spending. One woman interviewed says, "I think this economy was a good way to cure my compulsive shopping habit." The New York Post is really playing up the economic prediction from Warren Buffett. He was interviewed on CNBC. He calls our current situation economic Pearl Harbor. He says he's never seen American consumers more fearful. The Post publishes a lengthy transcript of that CNBC interview on page 29. Buffett says, "We will get past this." Talking about the great economic machine, he says that great machine gets gummed up from time to time. On the economy from the Wall Street Journal, Wall Street veteran Meredith Whitney is worried about the next credit crunch. She says trouble is ahead on credit cards. Her concern is that if credit lines are further reduced, there will be a major unintended slowdown in spending that will further cripple American business. Also in the Journal, two stories about the airlines. First, that they're having trouble keeping up with fleeing customers. Falling oil prices help them on the cost side, but even steep cuts in ticket prices have not been enough to fill the planes. The other airline stories from the consumer side. With all these baggage fees, it's getting tougher to compare one airfare to the next. So the online booking services are trying to take that into account now, helping you to decide whether to take a cheap flight where you pay for your bags versus a slightly costlier flight where the baggage fees are built in. The headline in the Boston Globe says how to pay for the getaway. Some creative ways to persevere with plans for an overseas trip, even if your budget's shrinking. The simplest piece of advice is that you can price shop on just about anything these days, even high-end trips that might have stuck to their brochure prices in the past. This is the photo of the day from the Chicago Tribune. This is the place unnecessary cubicles go when they are laid off. A used office furniture dealer in Chicago says it had 40,000 old cubicles worth of office furniture for resale last year. This year, 250,000. Let's move on to the other big story of the day, the stem cell announcement from President Obama. The Philadelphia Inquirer headline says it is a real game changer on this issue. That's a quote from a top cancer researcher. Almost every paper I looked at had some sort of opinion or analysis on whether President Obama was right to overturn President Bush's ban on funding for stem cell research. New York Times editorial says the president's move ends a long, bleak period in which the moral objections of religious conservatives were allowed to constrain science. The editorial in the Los Angeles Times says stem cell research is a long-term endeavor that should not be subject to the whims of successive administrations. The Oklahoman's editorial page raises religious concerns, the ones that drove George Bush to make the decision in the first place. That editorial says Obama spent political capital on Monday. Time will tell whether it was worth it. In Louisiana, it's Governor Bobby Jindal speaking out in the Monroe Star-News. The Republican says embryo research is akin to abortion. It's interesting to see the in-depth coverage on this story in college towns. The Detroit Free Press talks to a University of Michigan researcher who says now we can truly use all the resources we have. The Omaha World Herald also got the enthusiastic reaction from local scientists. And the paper's front page includes a great explanation of exactly what stem cells are and why they're so important in so much medical research. Time now for a few other stories of note, a lot on those first two. I thought the Baltimore Sun did a great job with its front page feature about energy audits. There are utility and government programs in Baltimore and elsewhere to help you figure out where energy is wasted in your home and to pay for fixing it. Two television notes. After 17 years, the TV run for the Power Rangers is ending. As reported in the New York Post, the toys continue to sell well, but the TV series is not as popular as it used to be. The Power Rangers shows will still be on in repeats. Eric LaSalle returns to ER on Thursday on NBC. The New York Daily News says this is part of the season-long wrap-up for the series. Noah Wyle and George Clooney also among those back for at least a few episodes in the characters that made them famous. Some straightforward results from a student achievement study in Texas. The Dallas Morning News says researchers linked physical fitness with positive academic test results. Fit students were also less likely to be disciplined by their teachers. And we'll finish with two stories about basketball in the Los Angeles Times, a story about the flu bug that has really hurt the UCLA team this year, one player after another. And in the sports section of the New York Times, an item about basketball recruiting, in particular, not a new controversy, but an ongoing controversy about the practice of ranking sixth-grade players. Perry Dozier of South Carolina is ranked as the top prospect for the class of 2015. He's been signing autographs since the 4th grade.
Each weekday we thin it out so you don't have to. You can find links to all of these stories on the main page at our website, patspapers.com.